Welcome in, everyone. Ready to dive into a topic that's honestly way more interesting than it might sound at first. We're talking integers.
Integers.
Yeah, they're everywhere, but most people don't realize how much they shape our world, like beyond just counting things.
It's true. When we think of numbers, it's usually counting 1, 2, 3. But integers, they go with this whole other zone. Like, what about less than 0? Not just, oh no, I ate all the cookies. Less than 0, but like real world stuff.
I've got our source material right here, and one of the examples that jumped out at me was about this woman, Sunita, planning a picnic. She needs 10 bananas, only has 8, borrows 2 from her neighbor. Boom, -2.
Yeah. Simple as that, but essential. And the source goes on about a guy, Ronald. He wants to buy this pen, right? Costs 15 euros, get 12. So he's short euro. That's -3, showing how important negative numbers are, especially in money stuff.
So, like, if your business is making money, that's positive numbers. But if you're in the red, got to use those negatives, right?
Exactly. And it's not just about owing money. It's about anything that goes below a certain point. Think about sea level. We say, okay, that's 0.
Makes sense.
Mount Everest,
Yeah.
way up high, that's a huge positive number. But Death Valley.
Oh, right. It's below sea level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Got to use a negative integer to describe how far down it is.
Never thought of it like that. It's wild how many places we need these numbers to, like, make sense of things.
It is. Even temperature, freezing day, you
Yeah.
see -5 degrees C on the thermometer.
You know it's cold.
Yeah. That negative sign tells you instantly below 0.
So much information packed into this little minus sign.
Right. And it's not even just about above or below 0. Things get even cooler when we start putting these integers on a number line.
Oh, yeah, the number line. That's the perfect transition, actually, because the source material uses the number line as part of a game.
Oh, yeah, with
Integers.
Ruchika and Salma, right? They've got this number strip.
So it's like a board game kind of thing?
It's like a number line, yeah. But it only goes from 0 to 25. So they're moving along it, and they're rolling different colored dice, and each color tells them, okay, move forward this many spaces or move backward.
So it's like their position on the board is represented by a number
By a number, exactly.
instead of just like a space.
Yeah, yeah. And I think they even mentioned using like a blue strip of paper
Oh, interesting.
to represent the negative side.
So they're really thinking this through.
Yeah, they were like really visualizing it.
Okay, so like if Ruchika rolls a 3, she moves 3 spaces forward on this number line,
Exactly.
which is like +3.
And then let's say she rolls the other die and has to move back 2 spaces. That's like -2.
Oh, that's cool. So they're actually like physically acting out addition and subtraction on this number line.
Exactly.
I like it.
And they were talking about how they actually had to extend their number line because sometimes they would roll.
Oh, they'd go past 0?
Yeah, they would go past 0 and they're like, well, what do we do?
That's so clever, though.
So they realized they needed negative numbers.
They had to invent them for their own game.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is making a lot more sense now. Seeing it on the number line really helps visualize it, but actually doing the adding and subtracting, that's always where I get tripped up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it can be a little tricky, right? But there's a logic to it for
Right.
sure. So the source material, they use this analogy of like walking up and down stairs.
Okay, I like that.
So each step is like a unit on the number line.
Gotcha.
So if you go up 3 steps, it's like adding +3. You're going up, you're moving towards the positive side of the number line.
And going down is negative.
Exactly, yeah. If you're going down 4 steps, that's like subtracting 4. You're moving towards that negative side.
Okay. So far, so good.
Right. So adding positive numbers, that's usually pretty intuitive for people.
Yeah.
You move right on the number line, things get bigger, right?
Right.
But with negative numbers, adding them actually makes the total smaller, right?
Right. Because you're moving left on the number line.
Yeah. Exactly. You're moving left on the number line. So let's say we're at -3 and we add -2.
Okay.
We have to move 2 more spaces to the left. So now we're at -5.
Okay. I'm following. But what happens when you have to add a positive and a negative number together?
Yes.
Like you go up 2 steps and then down 1.
That's where we get into this idea of what we call additive inverses.
Okay.
And the source uses this really great analogy with buttons. We talk about black buttons and white buttons.
Okay.
The white buttons represent positive integers, and the black buttons represent the negatives.
All right. I like where this is going.
Right. So if I have, let's say, 2 white buttons, that's +2, and I add to that 3 black buttons,
Okay.
that's -3.
So you've got +2 and you're adding -3.
You're essentially pairing up as many white and black buttons as you can.
Gotcha.
And since 1 white and 1 black button, that's +1 and -1, they sum to 0, right? They
Right.
cancel each other out.
So they basically disappear.
They disappear.
Okay.
And in this case, we would be left with 1 black button.
So the answer is -1.
Exactly.
Okay.
It makes sense.
So essentially, when we're adding a positive and a negative number, we're really subtracting the smaller number from the bigger number, and then we keep the sign of whichever number was bigger.
So it's like they're battling it out,
Yeah.
and the bigger one wins and decides if the final answer is positive or negative.
I like that. That's a great way to think about it.
Okay, so addition, we're good on, I think. But subtraction, that's always the one that really trips me up.
Mm-hmm.
Even more so than adding positives and negatives together.
Yeah, subtraction can definitely be a little counterintuitive.
It really can. Okay, so subtraction, it's like every time I think I've got a handle on integers, subtraction throws me for a loop.
I hear you. It's definitely one of those things that can feel a little backwards.
A little backwards is putting it mildly. So where do we even start? Well, the source material makes a point of saying how easy it is to get tripped up with this, and like it emphasizes that subtracting a negative number is actually the same as adding its positive counterpart.
Right, right. I've heard that rule before, but I'll be honest, it's always felt a bit like, I don't know, magic or something. Like, what's the logic there?
It makes a lot more sense if we think about it visually, like on that number line we were talking about.
Okay.
When you subtract a positive number, it's like taking steps to the left, right.
Right.
But when you subtract a negative number, you're kind of taking away those steps to the left, which is basically like moving to the right. Like you're adding...
So it's almost like those two negatives, they cancel each other out and they turn into a positive.
Exactly. Like if you're taking away a negative, you're essentially adding a positive.
Okay. I think I'm starting to see it. Can we try an example, maybe?
Absolutely. Let's say we have 5 minus -2.
All right. So we're starting at +5 on our number line. And normally subtracting means we move to the left, but we're subtracting a negative, so...
Instead of moving left, we reverse it. We're going to move 2 steps to the right, which puts us at
7.
Exactly. Subtracting -2 is the same as adding +2.
It's kind of like that double negative thing in English, right? Like, I don't have none actually means you do have some.
I've never thought about it like that, but that's a really good point. And just like with double negatives, it definitely takes a bit of practice to get the hang of it. But once you see how it works, it's like this aha moment.
Definitely an aha moment for me. Integers have always felt a bit like this big mystery, but now I feel like I can finally picture them, like actually understand how they work.
And more importantly, how they show up everywhere in the real world.
Exactly. From balancing your checkbook to like understanding the weather forecast or even just playing a board game, integers are everywhere. It's amazing how much more sense they make when you can visualize them on a number line and understand how adding and subtracting, even with those tricky negative numbers, really works. So next time you encounter integers, don't shy away, embrace the challenge. They might seem a bit strange at first, but understanding them gives you a whole new way to see and interact with the world around you. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into integers, everyone.